are currently, there it is. We are now live and recording. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the third FRAC alumni panel titled 4 Years in For Life. My name is Berthoud Leonidas. I am from ZFI and of FRAC, and I am serving as the moderator. And today we have our 5 panelists, Brother Morgan Seitz, Brother Norman Cromberg, Brother Marlena Jones, Brother Connor Mong, and Brother Alyssa White. Welcome one, welcome all on Zoom and on Facebook. We will now begin with a province roll call, as it is tradition with every FRAC event. I will now ask everybody on the Zoom to direct their attention to their reaction function on the Zoom. Feel free to use the thumbs up or the clapping motion when I bring up your province. Brothers of the Northeast, please react to my call. Welcome, welcome, brothers of the Northeast. Let us now move on. Southern brothers, where are you? Southern brothers. Welcome to all my Southern brothers. North Central, where is North Central? Welcome to all North Central brothers. South Central, where is South Central? South Central going strong, I see. And last but not least, the Western Province. Anybody in the Western Province? Welcome all.
Hello.
And now that we've had, sorry, what? Never mind. Now that we've had our roll call, it is now time for our introduction. I will begin and the panelists will follow along. My name is Berthoud Leonidas. I am the moderator of tonight's panel. I am currently living in New York City for a couple months now, so I'm relatively new to the Northeast, or the Northeast, as I've heard it is often referred to. I pledged in ZFI at Florida Atlantic University, down in Boca Raton, Florida. I've been a member since fall of 2016, so you can do the math. It's been almost 6 years for me. November will do my 6th year. And I am ZFI 1088. So we have quite a solid tradition of ZFIs in my school. And currently I am working with Toastmasters in a volunteer capacity as an area director. I keep charge of multiple public speaking clubs and make sure that they meet all their goals. I am currently looking through opportunities professionally. I have interviews coming up for jobs, and I'm hoping that by next month, I will have a job opportunity. That is my introduction. I will now move on to introduction. Let us now begin with Brother Norman Cronberg.
Thank you. Norm Cronberg. I'm an initiate of the Alpha Delta chapter at the University of Nebraska, Lincoln. My initiation date was November 15th, 1981. I have served a few roles within the fraternity. I won't list them because it would take too much time right now, I think. Professionally, I am a managing director for NetSpy. It's an offensive security testing firm. In that role, I help our clients build, develop, maintain solid cybersecurity programs. Seems kind of weird since my degree is in finance and management. It's an evolution of a career over time. So I don't know, Bart, if you want anything else for the intro, but I can fill in later if I need to.
Thank you very much, Norm, for your introduction. Let us now move on to Brother Alyssa White.
Hi, everybody. Like Bart mentioned, my name is Alyssa White. I live in San Antonio, Texas. I initiated at the Theta Omega chapter at St. Edward's University. If we're doing dates, it's November 7th in 2019. So Founders Day, we love that. I associate myself with FRAC. I'm trying to get involved with the San Antonio Alumni chapter. Work has just been really stressful. I just started about a month and a half ago working for a Texas state senator. I basically do a lot of his social media content and a lot of his outreach coordination stuff as well. So that is what I've been doing. And then I've also been volunteering as a marketing coordinator for a up and coming nonprofit, Stairway to Prosperity, up in Chicago. And I'm also an assistant district director for the Zeta New chapter over there at A&M at Kingsville.
Thank you, Brother Light. Let us now move on to Brother Marlena Jones.
Hey everyone, my name is Marlena Jones. I was initiated at Xi Sigma chapter at Wingate University, which is now unfortunately closed. And professionally, I work at Crown LSP Group. I've been there since February of this year. I'm an accounting specialist there. And I have served in a wide variety of roles, from district director to committee chair to a committee member of the National Alumni Development Committee. And I currently reside in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's an hour east of Raleigh. And I married a fellow brother from my chapter, and I also have two sons. Oldest is in preschool, and the other one just turned 1 2 months ago.
Aw, thank you very much, Brother Marlena Jones. And then I'll move on to Brother Morgan Seitz.
All right, hello everybody. Hope you're doing well. My name is Morgan Seitz. I currently live in Petersburg, West Virginia, so I am representing the Northeastern Province, Team Northeast, let's go. I pledged during the fall 2019 semester at Shepherd University, where I was initiated into the Epsilon Kappa chapter. And let's see, I don't have an alumni chapter affiliation right now because I don't live near one. But I try to stay active virtually, and I'm still really involved with my collegiate chapter, EK, as well. But I do hope to move to Frederick, Maryland at some point soon, hopefully. And I know that there is an alumni chapter there. But until then, I am here working as a marketing specialist for a regional planning and development council here in West Virginia.
Thank you very much, Brother Morgan Seitz. And last but not least, Brother Connor Mong.
Hey guys, my name is Connor. My chapter was New Phi at the University of Northern Colorado. It abbreviates to UNC, but don't get it mistaken, it's different. I pledged in fall 2013. Currently, I'm involved in the Denver Alumni chapter. I've been the VP, the president, and now I'm collegiate relations again. For my day job, I am the NOC manager at Machine Logic. We are a managed IT service provider.
Thank you very much, Brother Connor Mong. With introductions out of the way, it is now time for the panel question. Hold on a second. I have to admit someone. Perfect. Let's now begin with the very first question, which is, why did you pledge the Sigma Pi? I repeat, the question is, why did you pledge the Sigma Pi? This is for all the panelists, and I will start with Connor Mong, since he was last time.
Awesome. Well, the reason I pledged Delta Sigma Pi was I was in my sophomore year. I had just decided that, hey, I actually do want to pursue business in college. And I really thought to myself, hey, I feel a little out of my depth here. I'm not entirely sure what in business I want to do. But I saw them recruiting and I was like, you know what, it'd be really great to just take a step into an organization that's just built around business, so that I can get those networking skills, so that I can have those friends in those classes. So I have those people going forward in my college of business that I can rely on. And definitely later on in college, I go into a new class and I'd say, oh, hey guys, what's up? So really did pay off.
Thank you for that answer, Connor. Let us now ask Brother Alyssa White. Why did you pledge the Sigma Pi?
Yeah, so after I returned from my study abroad experience in France, I was really wanting to put myself out there. My freshman year, I really was in my room, didn't really want to go out, didn't have a lot of friends. After I made myself uncomfortable in France and made those friends and pushed myself out of that zone, I came back that fall and I was ready to go. I've always known I wanted to study business, so it was a no-brainer to go and look at this fraternity. I met them at the involvement fair that we have on campus, and I fell in love. I loved everything that they stood for, brotherhood, professional activities, networking, all of the above. I love that I would be able to see everybody, kind of like what Connor mentioned, in my classes. And it was just overall something I could definitely see myself doing. And I went to more events during their recruitment season. And from there, it's history. You're muted.
Who has muted me? How dare you? Well, Alyssa, that is a very great answer and a great story. Thank you very much. We will now move on to Brother Norman. Why did you pledge at the Sigma Pi?
To understand, that was close to 41 years ago. So I apologize if the memory slips. I'll admit it. And if anybody doesn't admit this, they're probably not being honest with themselves. Yes, I did join to pad the resume. And if you admit it, that's why most people walk in the door. But I also wanted to be involved in the College of Business. I wanted to be more than just in the classroom. An interesting sidelight to that, I actually met one of my best friends the first night of a recruiting event. And we continue to be very close to this day, chatting about how our families are doing, our careers are going, things like that. So much like everybody else said, I wanted to be involved in the college. I wanted to do something more than the classroom. So, and padded the resume. So.
Thank you for the honesty, Norm. I think we all have done it for the same reason. Let us now move on to Brother Morgan Seitz.
All right. I don't think I have a super interesting reason as to why I joined. I guess I was just kind of looking for ways to put myself ahead, develop professionally, because I kind of felt like I was lacking in that at the time. And I'll be honest, until I had already started pledging, I didn't really even know anybody in DSP. So joining was just this kind of spontaneous decision that I decided to make. I will say, though, I was kind of intimidated by the thought of joining at first. I guess, you just hear the words professional business organization and you're like, do they want me? Like, can they use me for something? For some reason, I just had it in my mind that all the college students in DSP already had these like super fancy corporate jobs or whatever. But I still decided to go to a recruitment event and they were super nice, super cool. I was like, oh yeah, these are college students, forgot about that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I did decide to pledge and I was actually the only initiate that semester. So it was a very unique experience. And I just fell in love with DSP and I wanted to be as involved as I possibly could be. And that feeling hasn't gone away. So that's been that.
Well, that must be one of the best decisions of all time, Morgan. Totally believe that. And last but not least, Brother Marlena Jones, why did you pledge to the Sigma Pi?
Well, I pledged as a freshman going into college, believe it or not, my very first semester. And right after graduation from high school back in 2008, I actually had a rising senior reach out to me via Facebook saying, hey, you should check this out. And I didn't know anybody. I didn't know what I was getting myself into at the time. So I decided, what the heck, let me humor her. I'll go check it out. And when I went to the recruitment events for that week, I fell in love with it and decided it's worth a shot. Might as well give it a chance. And here we are over 10 years later, and I don't regret the decision at all.
Well, if there is one thing we all learned today is that we all joined DSC for different reasons, and we all end up choosing this as the best decision of our time, or at least one of them. Let us now proceed to the second question. This question will be specific to Alyssa and Connor. So that's a question specifically to Alyssa and Connor. And the question is, tell us some of your favorite experiences in the Sigma Pi as a collegiate. I repeat, tell us about some of your favorite experiences in the Sigma Pi as a collegiate. Ladies first, Alyssa, you may start.
Well, thank you. I mean, how my collegiate experience was cut a little short due to the pandemic. So I don't have too many like in-person stories. However, there was a couple that really have stuck with me. I think one of my favorite things, every Thursday we get together, pledges and brothers, and we host a fun event. At that time I was pledge educator, so me and my fellow coworker kind of did it together. We planned it, and it was DSP Olympics, and we had it in a ballroom, and we were just with a bunch of cups all over the place, doing our thing. And that was an incredible moment. I don't think anybody has forgotten that event to this day. If you were there, you had a blast, and people keep telling me we have to do that event over and over again. And then also as collegiate, my first ever lead, which was right before the pandemic, so I got it in just in time. It was out in Plano, and that was an incredible experience. I was so nervous walking in there. Sat in my first session. The girl next to me started talking to me, Olivia, and we're best friends. We talk pretty much on a weekly basis. We're always there for each other. She's now expecting her first kid, and it's we're intertwined in this first story, in our story together. And just since then, I met a lot of amazing alumni that have gotten to me to where I am today. But I think those are my favorite experiences.
Always awesome to hear about great stories in Deltasig Pi, especially the fact that you get a lead right before the pandemic. To me, that is probably one of the best things to ever happen to you, because you got that experience. And let's now move on to Connor. Tell us about some of your favorite experiences in Deltasig Pi as a collegiate.
So I think the first one that comes to mind is I was able to be pledge class president of our pledge class. And I thought it was really cool going in, because they're like, you have to do all these things. And it was kind of this business mindset. You got to do community service, you got to do professional event, you got to do all these things. And I was like, this is super cool. So we had a pretty decent class size, and everybody had their own roles. And I just remember everybody was really on top of it. And we had finished weeks before, and everybody who had already been active just kind of looked at us and like, well, you guys got done pretty quick. All right, cool. So that was a really good feeling. The thing I really liked to do later on was be chancellor, actually. And I know some of you guys are hearing that and you're like, what's wrong with you? I had been involved in a couple other organizations in school, and they were really good at Parley Pro. And our chapter was lacking a little bit. So I like to do that. But my favorite thing, and it's so small and it's so stupid, but it was great. I figured out back in my day how to insert GIFs in the PowerPoint slide. So I would theme it every week. So people would just kind of be falling asleep, and then I get to the next slide and they're like, yeah, here we go. Here's that burst of energy. But yeah, those are some of the top two for me. You're muted, Bart.
Oh, yep, there it is. I'm back. Sorry, mute button was uncooperative. But Connor, between you and I also relate to the chancellor thing. I had that position. It was my favorite thing ever. It even got me a chancellor position at a provincial lead, if you would believe it, because of how well I was able to do it. So yeah, chancellor rules, literally, as someone says. Let us now proceed to the third question, which is for the entire panel. Tell us about friendships you formed or a meaningful experience you have had that was outside of your regions or province as an alumni. I repeat, tell us about friendships you have formed or a meaningful experience you have had that was outside of your region or province as an alumni. We will now start with Brother Marlena Jones.
Had to find my unmute button. Sorry about that. Well, I mean, I kind of tackled this a little bit, but my husband is a fellow brother from my chapter, and the story of how we got together was actually pretty funny. I was a district director at the time for my home chapter, and that night, after I had met with them over some issues that they were having at the time, I ended up getting into a car accident. This car accident totaled my car, and I had just talked to my husband that same night, just a short time before the wreck. He found out about this wreck and kept in touch with me every single day for the next week. And that following week was when our relationship started. And we had been going at it in our relationship for about a year before he proposed. And we married not even a year later after that. And we're still holding strong almost 8 years later. So if it wasn't for Delta Sigma Pi and the car accident, we wouldn't be together now. And it's also kind of funny because in college, we couldn't stand each other. So funny how stuff brings you together.
That is a great story. I would title it The Birth of a Merger, because that's literally what it was. A merger that was born out of a tragic event. We're now going to proceed to Brother Morgan Seitz. Tell us about some of your favorite, tell us about friendship you formed or a meaningful experience you have had that was outside of your region or province as an alumni.
All right. Oh, Marlena, that's adorable. But I think as far as friendships out of my province goes, Alyssa's the best example. At last year's GCC, the virtual one, all of the Collegiate chapter presidents and delegates had this huge group chat, right? And we would, just have fun, make the best out of a kind of situation. So, we had fun, we were talking, but then GCC ended. And the chat was still actually pretty active, but over time, it kind of dwindled and dwindled and dwindled. And then we made a new group chat with just like 5 of us. And Alyssa and I were in there, and we still kind of talk a lot, but I know I talk to Alyssa pretty much every day still. And we actually roomed together in Cleveland during that GCC this past year, had a lot of fun. And actually just being around Alyssa kind of introduced me to some new friends, like the amazing people in the FRAC group, like Cody, Vito, Connor, James, I don't know who else is here. I see like a ton of you, but I would probably take 10 minutes. Anyway, and it's actually why I'm on this panel right now. But yeah, that was a meaningful friendship that was formed from not even an event that was in person, it was virtual. So yeah, I'm really thankful for that.
Always good to hear about new friendships being formed in Delta Sigma Pi. Always warms my heart. And let's now proceed to Brother Alyssa White.
Morgan, I can't believe you stole my story. How dare you? I mean, Morgan is my best example. But even just kind of going to GCC in general, I met so many different people from across the nation. It was crazy. I mean, because of that, I've been able to just have new experiences and have those new connections. Unfortunately, I haven't kept in touch with them as much as I would like due to like the new job and stuff. But definitely I have new avenues that are opened.
Great answer, Alyssa. I'd love to hear the story. And now let's give it to Brother Norman Cronberg.
Oh, let's see, over 41 years. I'm not going to be able to narrow everything down to outside the region of the province, because that would be hours. Would include international trips with a lot of people on the call. So I'll just have to use 2 words to describe it. Mary Moon. And she just laughed upstairs. She's my girlfriend. We call her our place Normoon. She moved up here from Jacksonville, Florida. We met through the fraternity, things like that. So you asked relationships, so that'd probably be the one that I had better share tonight. Otherwise, it'd be a long evening.
One of these days, Norm, we will sit by a campfire and we want to hear the entire story, the whole thing through all the years.
The whole thing?
The whole thing. Like I said, the campfire. And we'll use wine, of course, because that is the best way to maintain that story. Let's see. Before I keep going, I will have to have a quick announcement. For the very first time ever in the history of FRAC, we will now be behaving as a business and have something akin to a commercial break, if you could even believe it. This commercial break will be hosted by the Leadership Foundation. to boost the Founders Day Challenge. I would like, therefore, to ask Janine Triplett, Brother Janine Triplett, who is with us today, to host and provide the first ever Deltasig Pi focused commercial break. Brother Triplett, you have the floor.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure. First ever commercial break. So if I had known, I should have worn something else, not sure. But anyway, but you see my foundation behind me, so we're good. And actually,
oh, Janine, you just muted yourself.
You just lost it.
oh, thank you. Thank you. I did that with this. Thank you so much. So I just posted the link for the webinar for the training for this year's Founders Day Challenge. It is October the 12th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So last year on our Founders Day, we celebrated and we kicked off our very first Founders Day Challenge. We raised a crazy amount of money. I mean, we raised $107,000 in like 2 or 3 days. It was the most exciting, crazy thing that all the brothers that got into nationally. Deltasigs all over, actually outside the United States, were giving money and setting up pages and telling their stories. So our goal this year, the benches, I mean, we raised that so much money now, the bar is high. So now we're ramping it up. We want to beat that goal this year. And we know we can do it because last year was the first year. And even with the success of it, there were so many brothers that were like, wait a minute, now what are we doing? Oh, this is really cool. And they sort of jumped on it at the end, but we just now know, now that we have more time to plan, that's going to be bigger and better. So on the 12th, the webinar won't last longer than maybe 45 minutes. You'll learn about how to set up your page. We really encourage each chapter to set up a page. In addition, we want each chapter to set up a page, collegiate chapter, and you can raise money for your leadership, your collegiate, your CLF, your chapter leadership fund. We just coincidentally awarded $100,000 through the CLFs back to the chapters to use for GCC, to use for the lead conferences. So they've spent the most money for the CLFs since they've been started in 2018, and we know it's because of the Founders Day Challenge. So please plan on participating. Please have fun with it. There were so many brothers talking smack. We had competitions, and everyone had so much fun with it. So we encourage you to be creative, and you'll learn more. You'll see it on social media. Even if you don't participate in the webinar, you can set up a page and help promote it. When each chapter sets up their page, which we are going to help facilitate this year, then all the brothers within that chapter can be a part of that page and just send the links out. One thing I want to clarify, especially for all the alumni on the call, I found that last year, because a lot of this has taken place over social media, but being part of social media and being active in social media is not a requirement to participate in the Founders Day Challenge. At the bare minimum, when you set up your page, which is easy to do, very intuitive, it's very easy to use, you can just copy the link and email it out. You don't even have to be on social media, not a requirement. So don't let that intimidate you if you're not one who's on it all the time. So again, if you got an email, you're good to go. So I want to thank everyone in advance for and challenging you to help us make this one the best ever. So, which is 2 years old, right? Best ever. So again, the link's in the chat. Please join us on the 12th. Go ahead and register for the webinar, and we will be sending out lots more information.
Hey, Bart.
Thank you. Yes.
Point of executive privilege, just want to again congratulate, one, happy belated birthday, Janine, and also late congratulations on becoming a brother earlier this year. So thanks for always being a friend to FRAC, as always.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Brother Triplett, for your announcement, and we cannot wait to help you and participate in the Founders Day Challenge. I certainly hope that this challenge becomes a tradition that will continue for years and decades to come. And hopefully all brothers and chapters will have a multitude of ways of contributing to the fraternity now and in the future. So great job, and I cannot wait to see the numbers come in this October and November. We are now back from our first ever commercial break, as I brought it up, and we will now be continuing with question number 4, specifically to Norm and Alyssa. Question number 4. What does the Sigma Pi mean to you outside of the letters and the purpose? I repeat, what does the Sigma Pi mean to you outside of the letters and the purpose? Ladies first, we can begin with Alyssa.
For me, Delta Sigma Pi is literally all about brotherhood. I mean, if it wasn't for the brotherhood, I wouldn't be the person I am today. If you would have met me in 2019, I was a very different person than I am now. And just through the connections I've made and the opportunities that they provided me, and having brothers along the way encourage me to push myself out there and be in various officer positions, really like shaped who I was. And that is definitely like what I value as being a brother. Brotherhood, it's my go-to thing. When everybody asks me, why do you love DSP? I'm like, it's because of the brotherhood. Literally, I could not be here without any of y'all. Even all the people that I've met, all the alumni, different collegiates all over the nation, it's truly just been about the brotherhood.
We love you too, brother. We love you too. We will now proceed to Brother Norman Cronberg. What does the Sigma Pi mean to you outside of the letters and the purpose?
And I have to apologize because I will borrow words from the purpose, but I think it's appropriate. What is the expectation? It's not of me. It's not of the other individuals here. It's the organization. And I'm going to borrow the words, the higher standard. It's a greater expectation. When I walk in to interview somebody and they have the Greek letters there, when I walk into a business and they are brothers, I expect a higher standard in terms of contribution, not only to the business, but to the community, contribution to their institution they're an alumni of. It's that expectation, having been there. And several of you have heard the story when I interviewed a young man who sat down for the interview, had Delta Sigma Pi on the resume. And I asked, well, what did you do as part of the organization? And he said, he blew it off. And I hearkened back to that story a lot for that expectation. And it wasn't the expectation of him, it's where I failed him, because I did not stop the interview and lecture him. I did not stop the interview and tell him he's not going to get hired if he puts an organization on the resume and then says he blows it off, because I failed to contribute to him and help to generate that higher standard. So that's the point where I failed on those terms of the higher standard contribution and what we can do for the people in the organizations we're part of.
Thank you, Brother Norman, for this very insightful look at the essence that is the Sigma Pi. That is a really deep observation that I'm sure plenty of brothers will benefit. We are now moving to question number 5, specifically to Connor and Marlena. Question number 5. How have the skills and values you learned in the fraternity helped you in your professional life? I repeat, how have the skills and value you learned from the fraternity helped you in your professional life? Ladies first, we'll begin with Marlena.
Basically, the networking skills that you learn through lead school and Grand Chapter Congress, that has helped me tremendously. I had several jobs in the past 10 years, mainly with industries that I didn't feel I was compatible in and that kind of thing. So I did what I was taught to do. I went out, put in my resumes all over the place, networked with a lot of executives, a lot of professional people within the area. And I ended up where I am because I knew someone that was high up in the management chain where I work now. And I even got a promotion within 6 months of me being at this position because they appreciated all the work that I have done. So in a way, I feel like my networking skills, along with time management and everything else that I have learned through Delta Sigma Pi, has helped me in the professional world, especially this year alone.
There it is. It always warms my heart to hear that Delta Sigma Pi has provided value to people professionally. Let us now continue to Connor. How have the skills and values you learned from the fraternity helped you in your professional life?
Well, I think it's been pretty practical for me. DSP chapter is kind of a light run of a real business. In my experience going in Delta Sigma Pi, people are going to let you down. People are going to poorly communicate. People, even members of your chapter, will put you in interesting pickles because of things that have happened. I wish I could say that when you get into the business world, everybody is on top of their stuff, but that's not the case. In my industry, being in IT tech, we have clients, multiple organizations. I talk to CEOs and janitors, and all of them have done this before. But I think the important part of that is that you want to embrace it. You're not going to have a perfect professional life. But knowing after going through Delta Sigma Pi that that's something to expect, it's something that you already know how to handle because you did it in college. You're not going there and you're not thinking to yourself, you're like, oh my gosh, people communicate like this. Think to yourself, oh, yep, all right, cool. I know how to go about this. You're not showing up to interviews and learning right then and there how to appropriately dress for them. You already know. And I think most importantly, you know that good work should come with good fun. One of the things I like to do is occasionally some of the managers will be out and I'll have to watch help desk. So I host a luau day for it, basically. And I put on Hawaiian music. I get Lay's barbecue chips because it's really Hawaiian. And we just have fun with it. But when I look at the stats for it, it's one of the most productive days for them. So I really think keeping that in the back of your head is important. It's not work all the time. It's kind of a balance there. But yeah, I don't think that we joined DSP because we thought the bare minimum was enough. And that's who you should be in business, in my opinion.
There's sort of that final quote that I need on a shirt somewhere because that was really proper. It almost ties back to Norman's answer about the S of DSP, that higher standard that we all have and that we all strive for. Thank you, Connor. Great answer. If someone ever got the quote, please put it on the chat so that we can make t-shirts out of it. Thank you very much. We will now proceed to the 6th question. Question is for Morgan and Norm. For Morgan and Norm. What advice do you have for a senior collegiate, recent alumni, or alumni who have not been active for a long time about coming back to the fold and getting involved? I repeat, what advice do you have for a senior collegiate, recent alumni, or alumni who have not been active for a long time about coming back to the fold and getting involved? Ladies first, Morgan has the floor.
All right. So I'm sort of new to this DSP alumni thing. I graduated about 5 months ago, and I didn't want to. I guess my life had just sort of become so full of DSP all day, every day, that I couldn't imagine my life without seeing my brothers every day, or at least having the option to, you know? Or even, yeah. So I was a little bummed out for a while, I'll be honest. But then I made the decision to go to GCC in Cleveland, and it was an amazing decision. If you joined DSP around like 2.5 years ago, you know that you didn't get nearly as many in-person networking opportunities as the brothers who graduated before the pandemic started. And that's insanely frustrating. You know I was one of them, and it's nobody's fault, but you do sort of feel like you got cheated by time, you know? So my biggest piece of advice, honestly, make up for that lost time by going to all the national events that you can in person. You're going to have so much fun. You're going to meet so many people. You're going to make so many friends you're going to want to stay in touch with. And as an alum, it just sort of shifted my idea of involvement, you know? It sort of made me go from, oh yeah, you know, I just graduated college, I'm still a collegiate, to, oh, I graduated. Yeah, I'm an alum now. So it was honestly super exciting. And it kind of helped me see things from outside of that collegiate standpoint as well. And it also helps you keep the bond going between you and your chapter as well. So yeah, go to national events, go to collegiate events as an alum if you can. As an alum interested in staying involved with DSP, but somebody who doesn't really have an alumni chapter near them, it's just sort of finding that balance between staying involved with your collegiate chapter and then trying to dip your toes into national stuff as well. So yeah.
Thank you, Morgan, for your unique perspective. I'm sure there's many of recent alumni who will take your words to heart. And let's now move on to Brother Norman. What advice do you have for a senior collegiate, recent alumni, or alumni who have not been active for a long time about coming back to the fold and getting involved?
Interesting question, because I was listening to Morgan's response and thinking about myself. I have not been inactive since I was a first semester freshman. So that's 41 years of, don't take this the wrong way, paying dues to either a collegiate chapter, an alumni chapter, and multiple alumni chapters, missing one grand chapter congress over that period, number of events, serving on the board of directors, the foundation board. But so I'm not sure I can appreciate what it means to come back into the fold, other than as I've talked to people who've done it. First piece of advice, remember the purpose, because it's not just a collegiate organization, it's a member organization. And then look at it from the optimistic and the ability for the organization to adapt. So in response to Morgan's, actually, to me, the pandemic presented opportunities for Delta Sigma Pi that most other organizations did not embrace. FRAC exists out of a lot of the pandemic. The ability to, quite frankly, several of us alumni had breakfast, joint breakfast, where we were all cooking remotely through this because we were brothers. We wanted that. We found a way to adapt. If you look back in our history after World War II, we found a way to adapt when most of the males, because that was the predominance of the brotherhood, were off to war. It was lean, mean, and it plowed through. So I look at from the idea to be opportunistic, take advantage of the situation that's presented to you. If you're in an area that doesn't have an alumni chapter, form one, seek out other people, take advantage of it when you travel overseas. Been in London and met up with the brothers there when I was last there, and it was amazing talking to them. Several of us are traveling to Italy in a couple of weeks. We've been to Mexico together. So it's embracing what those opportunities are for you, consistent with that purpose. And then the energy you get when you come back to a collegiate chapter, whether it be here in Omaha or in Lincoln, or when I visited one as Grand President in New Jersey or California or Texas or Florida, or heaven forbid, it's South Dakota. If you've ever been there, it's an adventure. But it's an opportunity. So I would put it in that context. Be patient, look for the opportunity, seek it out. It's going to be different, but embrace the different nature of it.
Thank you very much, Brother Norman. That is such an elaborate answer, and I'm sure we all are going to learn something from it. I've received a request to include Brother Marlena Jones to the question. So I will repeat the question for her benefit. Brother Marlena Jones, what advice do you have for a senior collegiate, recent alumni, or alumni who have not been active for a long time about coming back to the fold and getting involved?
Well, first of all, whoever requested that, thank you. I don't know how to feel about this question, considering I've been involved pretty much since I graduated. There was like a year in between my graduation and the time that I became district director where I was not involved. So, and believe it or not, I got involved because I reached out to my regional vice president at the time. So if I have anything to say, piggybacking off of what Morgan and Norm said, go to these events. You won't regret it. Reach out to your leadership. That's another good way to do it, because if you don't reach out to your leadership, they don't know that you're not that you're interested in volunteering. Volunteer your time. I mean, I was a district director for about 7 or 8 years before I took a step back to spend more time with my 2 kids. And also, I'm pursuing my master's degree. So I definitely had to take a step back. And when I do get it, I plan on coming back. So that's another thing. If there's no alumni chapter where you are, like there's no alumni chapters in North Carolina, if my memory serves me correctly, start one up. We are actually in the middle of trying to start one up in the eastern part of North Carolina. So it's an effort to try to do that, considering North Carolina is like a desert for alumni. So yeah, in the wonderful words of Keith Bugner, who's a brother here, he says that North Carolina is a desert for alumni, and I do agree. So basically, don't give up if you want to get involved.
Thank you, Marlena, for providing another angle, another point of view, another answer to that question. I'm sure now we have covered so many different approaches as to how brothers should remain active or come back to the fold. We are now going to the 7th question. This is for all the panelists. Why do you choose to stay active or engaged with the fraternity as an alumni? I repeat, why do you choose to stay active or engaged with the fraternity as an alumni? Let us start with Brother Connor Mong.
I was typing notes and I was like, he's not going to call on me first, but here I am. So actually, joining an alumni group is something I was kind of bullied into by another alumni, Tia Arnold from CSU. Some of you guys may know her. She really wanted me to get involved. She started getting me going to meetings, and then eventually she was like, hey, we need somebody to fill this position. And that's how I got hooked into the Denver Alumni Chapter. I do look back now that it's been a couple of years, and I really appreciate it. I was just spending a bunch of time just going to work, hanging out with my friends and losing that bigger perspective. But going out, just being able to see what everybody else in my area is doing, starting to get those friends in that organization, that was really great for me. Now in my current role, I went from president to collegiate relations because this past year, just kind of seeing how COVID kind of ran a train on everybody, I feel this sense of obligation to kind of give back, to get them involved, for them to be able to see the bigger picture where, hey, you're doing this now, and sure, you can graduate and just be done with it like many people do, or you can stay involved and do something great. But yeah.
Well, thank you for being active, and thank you for your contribution to the fraternity. That is really appreciated. I'm sure all of us are grateful for you. Let us now move on to Brother Alyssa White.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, to be honest, how can I not stay involved? There is amazing people here, like I mentioned multiple times tonight. I was basically an officer from pledge class until I graduated. I was heavily involved, much like Morgan said. I wasn't ready to graduate. I wanted to see my brothers daily. I wanted to still like be as a collegiate, because I didn't know what was in store for me as an alumni. But all of that kind of went away as soon as I went to GCC, which, by the way, most people there were alumni. That is like their time to party. They were getting down. I kid you not, they partied harder than me. I'm 22. So they are killing it. They have stories to tell for days. They have such an amazing connection to one another, and they're so willing to help you and to push you in the right direction. If it wasn't for an alumni, Tiffany, I wouldn't be an ADD now, working my way up to DD, hopefully in the next couple years. But I wouldn't be involved if I had never have met these alumni as a collegiate. And I want to give back to collegians, which is why I'm still involved, because I know how much this fraternity helped me. I wanted to do the same for others.
Thank you, Brother Light. And thank you for answering that question. Let us now move on to Brother Marlena Jones.
I stayed involved mainly because, well, for one, I wasn't ready to graduate either. Here I am 10 years post-graduation. And aside from a family, kids, and things like that, I'm not ready to give up Delta Sigma Pi. Not that I'm saying you ever would, because membership is for life, but involvement is a thing that I cherish. I greatly value my time in DSP. And I also made a very endearing promise to the chapter advisor that was serving during my time in the chapter, who is no longer with us. But I promised her that I would stay involved, make a name for my chapter, because no one in my chapter, husband included, is involved outside of their collegiate lives. So again, just trying to get the chapter name out there, maybe even an effort to get them reactivated in the future. You never know.
Brother Marlena Jones, the Xi Sigma pioneer. Cannot wait to see that journey for you. Let's see, we're going to Brother Morgan Seitz. Why do you choose to stay active or engaged with the fraternity as an alumni?
Yeah. Alyssa, I stole your answer before, but you stole mine now, so we're even. I guess I'm gonna have to come up with something, but no, I mean, same. How could I not be involved? You know, like I said, it took up a lot of my time as a collegiate, and that's not a bad thing. It was probably one of the most fulfilling experiences that I've ever had. It still is. And it just contributed so much to my personality, to my confidence. It made me realize what I wanted to do in my life. And, you know, at first I was like, okay, I'm definitely staying involved with my chapter because I love them. I'm never gonna drop EK ever, ever, ever. But then I went to GCC and I was like, do I also want to get involved nationally? And also kind of make another bigger name for EK, even though an alum of ours is the Northeastern PvP, so that's awesome. But yeah, no, it just contributed so much to my life, to my personality, to my confidence, and it just made me the person who I am today. So I just feel like I owe a lot to it.
Yes, we cannot take Delta Sigma Pi out of Deltasig Brothers. That is indeed correct. Let us now move on to the final panelist, Brother Norman Cronberg.
Interesting question. I would have to say the why is the achievement of other people. The brothers that have followed or even preceded me in terms of what they've accomplished. I just calculated 11% of my fraternal career was as a collegiate, which means 90% was as an alumni. It's just, sorry, and I see the chats going because they all expected this. Just incredible what brothers can accomplish. And if I can enable even a small piece of that, and that's why I stay involved, because I just get so impressed. I mean, FRAC in and of itself just blows me away, the concept and what it's been able to do. I've had the chance to facilitate weddings of two brothers. 4 of my Collegiate of the Years as Grand President went on to be a Grand President, Chair of the Foundation, Provincial Vice President, and a National Committee Chair. Their accomplishments are amazing. And what's even more impressive, their families are incredible, even why they contributed. So it's just, I'll have to say, it's what everybody else does, and I can see what they do, and I don't want to give that up. And it's really cool. You can sit in the back of the room at a Congress and see the accomplishments, those achievements. It's just impressive. So thank you all.
It's always impressive to see how much brothers mean to one another. Just the fact that we're able to succeed means a lot to not only us, but to also our fellow Deltasigs. This really brings about the true meaning of the brotherhood and the fraternity. Thank you, Brother Norman, for sharing your feelings with us. This concludes the scripted questions of the panel. We will now move on to the Q&A portion of the panel from the audience here today. All currently 46, but I know some people had to step out briefly. This one is for all the panels, and I believe myself included, since it is a Q&A. Let us proceed with the first Q&A as dictated to me. Have any of you worked internationally? And if so, where and what role? I repeat, have any of you worked internationally? And if so, where and what role? Feel free to unmute yourself to answer. I will give you a few moments if you have anything you want to say. Brother Norman.
I will have to say I've not, it depends on what you mean by working internationally. I've been on job assignments in Germany, Ireland, London, China, Australia. I might miss a few. I've just been a remote assignment with Israel. So I've appreciated and dealt with these cultures, their business cycles and all that. But have I resided in those countries? No, I'm Canada too. I should include that. So yeah, I've worked in international business, but not necessarily resided outside the US.
I can say that I also experienced something similar. During my time as an alumni brother, I had briefly worked virtually for a family company back home in Haiti. So I've technically worked internationally. And as a third world country, it is not a one-to-one translation to what I have learned and what I have applied in the US. I was mainly assisting with accounting and auditing, but it was not as to the standard of Deloitte and EY and PricewaterhouseCoopers, for example. It was a much more, shall we say, fundamental approach. What you learn in, would you get your bachelor degree, the basic Excel sheet statement and the handwritten down version. So I've done as well remote assignments, but I haven't gone back home and lived there as a brother. I've only been in the US and I've been a brother this entire time. Anyone else has ever worked internationally in the audience? If anybody has any interesting answers they want to contribute, feel free to unmute yourself.
I mean, the closest I've got is Europe or Australia will change some rules. And because of our involvement with certain clients, all of a sudden we have to care about what Europe or Australia is doing legally. So.
Connor just reminded me of a thing. I will have to say, being in cybersecurity, man, these hackers do come from other countries, the Ukraine. I mean, so Connor, if you think about what we do, let's face it, we're dealing with certain threat vectors that probably are not domestic.
Indeed.
Yeah, I really think an interesting part of that, not something that everybody knows, is a lot of nation state actors, especially in cybersecurity. So we're talking intelligence services from Russia and China will go after businesses.
North Korea too.
Interesting how rules change for country to country. Next Q&A question. What is FRAC? I'm sure everybody has a different take on what FRAC is, but for the person who asked the question, allow me to begin. The simple answer of what FRAC is what you're seeing right now on the screen. Everything about it, every aspect of it, our relationship, the fact that we have all 5 provinces in an event at one time that is not GCC, having our interaction, expressing our brotherhood, being this community of brothers, this community of Deltasigs who care for one another, who seek to help out one another. Everything that you see about the fraternity, FRAC is simply following the expression of all the brothers in all provinces, in all regions, to maintain that brotherhood, that feeling at all times, always. That is the simplest way I could describe what FRAC is. If anybody has any other angle or point of view, feel free to speak now. I guess, let's go ahead.
I would say that FRAC is brothers drilling deeper into their brotherhood. And I'm going to trademark it so they can't put it on a shirt.
Fair enough. You can trademark it. But at the very least, I would love to see that statement at a GCC. And I would like to ask you how much they had to pay you to use that specific statement.
But on a more serious note, I went to GCC to represent the Denver Alumni chapter this year. And I had been in the FRAC chat for a little bit, just kind of like, oh, these people really love Delta Sigma Pi. But I was able to walk in, everybody's like, hey, it's nice to meet you, Connor. And I made a lot of great friends, and I wasn't expecting that. It was fantastic.
Thank you, Connor. Appreciate you too. Anybody else has any other point of view, other take on FRAC?
Bart, you might want to actually say what FRAC stands for. I think that might be where the confusion.
I
I think that's where for the collegiate confusion is what legitimately what is FRAC, not the metamorpho of it.
Fair enough, like a more literal explanation of FRAC. Right. FRAC went through a list of names that share the same acronym. But if we had a literal way of describing FRAC, we are a free-range alumni community. This is essentially what we are. We were born out of the pandemic because we miss each other. And it started as something as simple as having happy hours that we can share and that we can interact with and maintain that feeling of brotherhood because we're stuck at home. And as more and more brothers join FRAC, FRAC seems to grow and become more and more. At first, it was simply happy hours. And then we started making events like this panel. This is our third panel in that particular format. We are also, as a free-range alumni community, we are always interested in retaining the essence of the fraternity, as Norm has so eloquently put it earlier. We've brought back some tradition, such as the alumni, the founders toast, for example. It had only occurred once until FRAC brought the tradition back. We've had the most unique experience of going to GCC and knowing people, but not in person, in a very personal way before actually meeting them. It is very weird for me to meet Arnell and say, oh my God, hi Arnell, nice to finally meet you in person when I've known you for 2 years and I've seen so many things about you.
And Bart, everybody finds it weird to meet Arnell in person.
That's true. Yes, that is indeed true. And
sorry,
again, yes. And again, it's part of that born out of the pandemic and us quickly realizing that our daily, well, not daily per se, our weekly moments of brotherhood does not have to be limited to our alumni chapters or the brothers that are our personal friends that we call once a week. It can be shared with every brother, those in Hawaii, those in Alaska, sometimes those in other countries. Arnell, for example, had one of his friend, I believe his name is Vit. I forgot how it's pronounced. Vit, thank you. Yes, thank you. And he was at the time cooking, he was a chef cooking for the Olympics as it was happening in Japan. Imagine the idea of a brother working in Japan at the time, finding the time to go on a FRAC call and talking to other brothers in the US. So FRAC is Delta Sigma Pi online through Zoom without distance being a factor. This is what FRAC is. Thank you for all the comments who are supporting my long-winded rant, by the way. And thank you, Vito, for clarification. Third Q&A question. What is one piece of fraternity-related advice you would give to a collegiate brother? I repeat, what is one piece of fraternity-related advice you would give a collegiate brother? The panelists, you have the floor. Let's start with Marlena.
Gee, put me on the spot. Thanks, Bart. Stay involved. That is the best advice that I can give. Run for office. I started my first office position, I believe it was fall of sophomore year. I had to think a little bit about that one. It was over 10 years ago. I feel old. So yeah, stay involved, run for office, go to events, stay engaged. And that's pretty much the best advice that anybody would be able to tell you. Go to lead school. That's the best advice that I can give.
Thank you, Marlena. Brother Norman Cronberg.
And I saw Bill Sabelski posted it, and I'm not shocked for him to say it, is view it as not your chapter, but as Delta Sigma Pi, an international business fraternity. There are people all over. Heck, Mary's sitting right here. She moved up here from Jacksonville. Bill came, and we're close because he taught me all about wine. He moved into St. Louis from California. I mean, friends all over the place, colleagues all over the place. So my advice is view it as a global community, not a single chapter.
Thank you, Brother Norman. Morgan?
Yeah. Let's see. I already touched on national events, so let me try to whip something else up here. Yeah, I think it is very important to make names for yourselves nationally and to, try to connect with people at a national level instead of just your chapter level, but also remember to try to make a name for your chapter at your school. Try to host a lot of events on campus, and maybe don't just invite business students, invite everybody, just try to have those really good campus relations. And I think EK does a pretty good job of that, and I'm really thankful for that. And yeah, there might have been something else I was going to say, but overall, also, imposter syndrome is real, especially when you're in college. So whenever you have an accomplishment, take it, don't try to be like, oh, well, I wasn't really qualified for that. It just happened and I just got lucky. No, you're qualified for it. If you do something once, you're qualified to do it 100 times after that, is the way I see it. So if you have an office, put it on your resume, talk it up, do things with your office that kind of set you up for success later on. And yeah, DSP is just a really powerful tool to kind of just build your confidence. So take advantage of that.
Thank you, Morgan. Let us go on to Connor.
I would say you get out what you put in. One thing that comes to mind is I did recruitment for a semester, and I went up to chapter the weeks preceding, texted people, said, hey, let's get pumped. Make sure you stand up in your classes. Make sure you talk about it. Just let's all do it. Let's all go for it. And after a while, I felt silly, and I was like, is this even going to work? We ended up having about 15, which was huge for our chapter, because our chapter is usually around 10 or 15 people. So you really do get out what you put in.
Thank you, Connor. And finally, Alyssa.
So many great answers. Every time y'all spoke, I'm like, my God, they stole mine. So like Morgan said, let me whip something up real quick. Honestly, make yourself comfortably uncomfortable. That's really weird to say, but if you're comfortable where you are right now, push yourself to do something unexpected. Like for me, I would have never ran for officer positions, but it was my brothers who told me I should run for this because I am qualified. So listen to them. If they're telling you that you are capable of more than you're doing now, it's because they see something in you that you're just not seeing yourself, and you need to run with it. And if you ever have an issue, you have all of them to fall back on so they can help guide you through whatever you have going on, and you'll just become a better person at the end of the day.
Thank you, Alyssa. We will now finish the Q&As on a more lighthearted note. And because of the audience and those who were not in on the insider joke, I should bring out the insider joke. We had witnessed on social media, it was Instagram Live, if I'm not mistaken, an event. Our brother was cooking steak and it was being broadcasted live. The brother's cooking method raised questions and led to a myriad of debate that lasted late into the hours in the morning. And because of that insider joke, FRAC has created a tradition of asking people questions concerning steak. I will call on the panelists first and then ask the question. Think of it as a lightning round sort of thing. Let us now begin with Connor. Connor, how do you like your steak?
I'll go for a medium. I'll get the hate.
All right. Next panelist, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Marlena, how do you like your steak?
I used to be a medium well girl, but I go for more for a medium now.
An improvement. We appreciate. Good job. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Alyssa, how do you like your steak?
Medium rare. I feel like
Medium
I'm judged.
Ooh, all right then.
Blue rare.
Still mowing.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Brother Norman Cronberg, how do you like your steak?
All right, I'm going to give you two answers. Traditionally, up until last night, it was rare to medium rare. Living in Nebraska, you got to respect the beef. Heard of a new one last night, blue rare.
Ooh.
Seared on the charcoal, each side, then brought out, and it's just crispy on the outside, but seals in the juices.
Yes, blue rare. I've heard of it. I heard that if you listen quietly enough, in the distance, you can hear the spirit of the cow mooing somewhere. Finally, Morgan Seitz, how do you like your steak?
Am I going to get like kicked out of the fraternity or something if I answer wrong?
No.
You might get ridiculed.
When I do eat steak, which isn't often, don't judge me.
Mhm.
It's barbecue sometimes. If it's well done, but I would say I'm a medium person.
A medium.
now, but I really don't eat steak that much.
That is fair. At least when you do, it is at least within the acceptable range.
Okay,
For
good.
those of you
I
who
was
are not
worried.
aware, for those of you who are not aware, the unfortunate punchline of the inside joke was that the steak we witnessed on the Instagram Live was made well done with a layering of American cheese on top of it. It was deemed to be sacrilegious and a heresy, which we all agreed with, but it led to the myriad discussion as to how to properly eat a steak. And
It was
now
also a filet mignon, by the way.
yes, it was a filet mignon. That was the cut. The cut was a filet mignon. I forgot. To me, the separation was enough, just the way it was. And now the final Q&A question, an even more lighthearted question with no inside joke. Let's proceed. Brother Norman, cats or dogs?
Dogs.
All right. Brother Connor, cats or dogs?
Dogs. I'm allergic to cats.
All right. Brother Alyssa, cats or dogs?
Dogs, got 5 of them.
All right. Brother Morgan, cats or dogs?
I love both equally. But if you strongly prefer dogs over cats, then I think you have some personal space issues. I think you need to work on those. You need to work on your boundaries.
I will not comment on that. Brother Marlena, cats or dogs?
I'll be one of the oddballs and say cats. I have 2 of them here.
And by majority rule, dogs rule. This concludes the third panel for the FRAC alumni, titled 4 Years and 4 Life. Thank you very much to everybody who participated. Thank you very much to our panelists. I would like to see the reaction, round of applause for everybody, or just show up your screen and clap for other panelists. Thank you very much, Juan. Thank you very much, all. I was Berthoud Leonidas, moderator of this panel. And now that we have approximately 11 minutes left until the end of the scheduled programming, the audience can now interact with the panelists and myself.
Well, wait let me stop recording and stop the live stream before you do that.
Yes, please.